Hello, I'm Simon, and you're currently on a Lafarge site, part of the Holcim Group. Together, we're going to create a safety induction to integrate and implement Holcim's safety rules to counter the risks present in the working environments of Lafarge sites. And here's your avatar to help you discover and understand these rules.
Hello. I have a feeling we're going to make a great team.
He's here to represent you through the video, a single avatar you can identify with. But don't forget, in the video he's like a crash test dummy, taking the risks and the blows, but in reality it's up to you to avoid them. On the various Lafarge sites, action has been taken for several years to reduce the number of accidents by developing a zero-accident culture. Here is the information you will need to enter this area. People's safety is considered more important value than the missions assigned to them. Risky situations are not ignored, and risky behaviour is not tolerated by managers and employees alike. Each line manager is responsible for organising the work of his or her teams in such a way as to control safety risks, and employees are constantly concerned not to injure themselves in the course of their work. Keep in mind that the health and safety of the people working on these sites is a fundamental Lafarge value. You'll need to show visible leadership and responsibility to successfully complete your mission. Access to sites is regulated. You'll need to pass through the guard station using your personal badge, which you'll need to present at every entrance and exit. If the host site does not have a guard post, you will have to go to reception and then be accompanied by your Lafarge correspondent to gain access to the site.
A Lafarge correspondent?
A Lafarge correspondent is identified for each of you. He or she may be a Lafarge contact or work coordinator for external company representatives, or your line manager or tutor for Lafarge employees. You must pass this national safety induction before working on Lafarge sites. There are several safety checkpoints depending on the type of work you will be doing and the type of activity at your site. To validate your mission, you must pass an online test with a minimum score to obtain the mandatory safety pass, which you must stick on your helmet.
It's in the bag.
Never forget that our installations are dangerous environments. Once you have your safety pass, you must...
That I can tell you. Adopt a positive attitude. Subscribe to the zero-accident culture. Think before you act and analyse the risks of an operation before intervening.
Exactly. All that's missing are the 8 Holcim rules and recommendations, which we'll get to right away. Now, please add these 8 health and safety rules to your knowledge inventory.
OK, I'm ready.
Rule number 1, report all incidents within 24 hours. Rule number 2, use personal protective equipment, PPE, that is mandatory and specific to the task in hand. Rule number 3, obtain and comply with a work permit or authorization for work, including work at height, hotspot work in confined spaces, load lifting and energy insulation. Always follow the LOTOTO procedure. Isolate and lock energy sources with padlocks, labelled with name padlocks and test out realised. Rule number 4, comply with environmental and operational requirements. Rule number 5, do not bypass or neutralise the safety equipment or critical controls that keep our major risks under control. Rule number 6, don't work on unprotected equipment, don't move under suspended loads, don't enter exclusion zones. Rule number 7, don't drive without a seatbelt, don't use your cell phone, respect speed limits and driving times. Rule number 8, never work under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And don't forget, respecting these rules is a prerequisite for your mission's success.
Great! I've added these 8 health and safety rules to my knowledge inventory, and I already feel more operational, ready for what's next.
To fulfill your mission, you'll have to take action in dangerous situations. You will therefore have the right and duty to interrupt a work site in the event of serious and imminent danger to any person. In this case, don't forget to alert your line manager and your Lafarge contact. You should also enter all information concerning the dangerous situation on the BOG application. You must always comply with the host site's rules and regulations. Lafarge applies consequence management to its employees and contractors.
Consequence management? What is that?
If you do not respect the rules, zero tolerance will be applied and you may be temporarily or permanently banned from the site. For each specific mission, you will need to wear appropriate personal protective equipment. In all cases, the following PPE is mandatory.
I know. A suit of armour, a short sword, an underground exploration bag.
First of all, high laced safety shoes and high visibility work clothes. Please note that boots are not allowed.
All right.
Gloves suitable for the job, sealed goggles and a helmet with chin strap bearing the company name and valid safety pass.
And question, what about people wearing eyeglasses?
They must wear safety sealed goggles, which can become airtight if fitted with elastic, or an airtight mask over the goggles. Helmets with integrated visors are not permitted. When do you think hearing protection is mandatory?
When ambient noise and interventions make noise more than 80 decibels?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Grinding, welding, cutting, hammering, working next to a machine or compressor are all common operations on our sites for which the noise level exceeds the authorised limit. Bear in mind that if you simply raise your voice to make yourself heard, then the noise level is over 80 decibels. Please note, following a series of measures, some sites have made it compulsory to wear hearing protection on all sites except administrative buildings. To find out whether your site is one of them, read the site-specific flyer or contact your Lafarge correspondent. One of the main causes of accidents at Lafarge sites is moving around, on foot or in a vehicle. Seemingly trivial, moving around hides risks of accidents that can be avoided by following these few rules, so get your knowledge inventory out.
I'm listening.
On foot to avoid falls. Don't run. Hold the handrail on the way down and on the way up.
Up, it's done.
Keep your eyes peeled for any holes, steps, obstacles or ruts in your path. Adapt your route to the prevailing conditions, especially on icy or rainy days.
Okay, I didn't see that one coming.
And for your safety on every occasion, wear high visibility clothing, use pedestrian walkways where available, don't walk in the middle of the road, do not cross any markings without the agreement of the site manager.
Okay, with that we're all set.
Keep your distance from vehicles and machinery or signal the driver before entering the traffic zone. Do not pass behind a moving vehicle. Stay focused when you walk, so no phones and no reading documents.
Oh, sorry.
And last but not least, wear gloves when you're out and about and don't put sharp objects in your pockets.
Otherwise, you're guaranteed a bad cut. And what about car travel?
When travelling by vehicle, please drive carefully and obey the road signs on the site. Speed limits apply on our sites, so please observe the posted speed limits. Seatbelts must be worn in all vehicles at all times, even on short trips. No cell phones on the road at any of our sites. Vehicles must park in reverse. In the absence of a fixed wheel locking system, you must use wheel chocks on your machines and trucks when not in use. Formally check the condition of your mobile machinery or heavy goods vehicle before using it. Remove the key from your vehicle when you're not using it. A valid driving license for light and heavy vehicles and a driving authorization signed by your employer for mobile equipment is needed. In addition, driver training and assigned safety protocol are mandatory for all goods transport. And here's a little extra information. When parking on the site, it's good practice to give the driver a temporary magnetic safety pass bearing the vehicle's registration number.
Everything is noted down, and personal cars are not allowed on the site, I suppose.
That's right. And for outside companies, you need to ask your Lafarge contact for permission to park near your worksite. Raw meal, clinker, cement, exhaust fumes, grinding operations, welding, and much more generate dust that can have an impact on your health. And the most dangerous dust can't be seen, being less than 10 microns in diameter. That's why you need to carry a P3 mask and a pair of airtight goggles with you at all times.
So you can quickly draw your mask out in the event of a high concentration of dust in the air.
Sealed goggles with the elastic are considered airtight if the air doesn't flow. The obligation to wear a mask will be posted on site or specified in your work permit or safety protocol, and/or your Lafarge correspondent will remind you verbally. What do you think you should do when getting in and out of your vehicle?
So, always face the vehicle and...
Always respect the 3 contact points.
Hands on the security bars and one step at a time.
In addition, you must have with you the loading-unloading protocol co-signed by Lafarge and your company. If you fail to present yourself at the BECS, you may be refused loading or unloading. The plant must ensure 100% of drivers are familiar with the loading-unloading protocol on site. Finally, wheel chocks on both sides are mandatory.
And what about PPE?
Of course, basic PPE, helmet, goggles, gloves and high-visibility clothing is mandatory.
Added to the inventory.
For several years now, we have been seeing improvements in our safety results.
That's because we play by the rules.
However, serious and deadly events continue to occur. They are remarkably similar and they repeat themselves.
What more can we do?
All these events were analysed and several undesirable situations emerged. Please write them down. Being in contact with moving equipment, incident with a mobile machine, engulfment, to fall from a height, incident related to building integrity and structure, coke or coal workshop explosion, flammable product fire, contact with hot material, road accidents, respiratory diseases, rescue plan failure, uncontrolled water discharge.
I've heard of the CCM. What is it?
The CCM is an improvement method designed to verify the effectiveness of our major risk prevention and protection measures. It is based on an analysis of fatal accidents that have occurred within the Holcim Group. It's vital to focus on these major risks, as any deviation systematically leads to serious consequences.
And now, buckle up. We're going to go into more detail with these major risks.
Machines in motion are very dangerous and have injured or killed several people on our sites. To prevent such accidents, Lafarge has drawn up a set of rules to be observed when working on or in the immediate vicinity of a machine in motion.
I'm going straight to my knowledge inventory.
Work near a machine in motion will only be authorised if all protective devices are in place and if the work allows a sufficient distance to be kept between the machine in motion and those working on it.
Meaning?
This means that clothing, tools, hair and any part of the body must be at a sufficient distance. Installations must be locked out before any work is carried out. The operator must not modify, misuse or remove control, locking or signalling devices.
It's a serious offence that can lead to exclusion, isn't it?
Exactly. And it is forbidden to climb, sit, run, stand, touch or walk on or under exposed parts of moving machines.
I won't do it again.
Operators must be trained and prepared to operate and maintain moving machinery.
And we will be.
You must ensure that no one is near the moving machines when they are started up, and you must report any unsafe condition or behaviour.
Come on, let's move along.
Quiz. What type of event can be caused by hotspot work, such as grinding, cutting or welding?
Fires?
Correct. The sites also contain areas with explosive atmospheres and areas with large quantities of combustibles. A pre-job analysis is therefore essential. It will determine whether a specific permit is required.
All right. And what's the procedure then?
Gas cylinders must be stored in marked, ventilated areas. They must be secured in an upright position and separated according to the type of gas. The sites are non-smoking. Areas are reserved for this purpose.
And now, a quick update on energy isolation.
Don't forget, before visiting or working on any equipment or in its immediate vicinity, the installations concerned must be made safe to prevent inadvertent startup or the release of energy during your work.
We'd rather not do that.
All devices and information relating to energy isolation are written
On the energy isolation permit.
a copy of which must be posted on site. As a worker or manager, you must remember that any intervention requires the installation of at least one padlock on a device or on an energy isolation box.
What are the characteristics of padlocks?
Your padlock must be personal, nominative, and with a unique key. At the end of your intervention and with the agreement of the Lafarge correspondent, you must unlock the lock. The Lafarge project manager will help you carry out the energy isolation operation. This is carried out using the Latoto sequence: lockout, tagout, tryout. At the same time, he checks zero energy status for hazardous energies such as pneumatic, mechanical, hydraulic, chemical, kinetic, gravity, electrical, explosive and kinetic, ionizing and thermal.
So is energy isolation really mandatory?
Failure to comply with Lafarge energy isolation standards exposes you to a major risk of serious and potentially fatal accidents. Don't forget, working on running machines is strictly forbidden.
Oh, right. And the consignment rules also apply during test out, I suppose.
Correct. If this is not the case, the intervention must be the subject of a written procedure or SOP, Safety Operations Procedure, validated by the site manager, and Latoto rules also apply during test out. It is preferable to define operating procedures that give priority to working on the ground in order to eliminate the risk. If this is not possible, you must use fall protection equipment, either by installing fixed protection, such as walkways or guardrails, or by using temporary work platforms, such as scaffolding, aerial work platforms, or individual rolling platforms to prevent falls.
What if you can't install these materials?
In this case, the use of personal protective equipment, such as harnesses on anchor points or lifelines, is authorised. You'll need to draw up a permit to work at height whenever your work requires you to wear a harness with a fall arrest system. If you're working with a cherry picker, you'll need to draw up a specific work permit for the cherry picker. No, ladder work is only a last resort, after the Lafarge correspondent has validated the means of preventing falls.
Well, I'm putting it back.
On the other hand, work on light rolling platforms or rolling scaffolding is authorised. Before intervening, you must check their condition and stability.
Everything is up to standard.
Scaffolding must be erected by persons qualified to carry out this type of operation. Once the scaffolding has been erected, it must be checked daily before use. If the scaffolding is not to be used during the week, it will have to be checked every week by an authorised person or organisation who will grant access authorisation. It is strictly forbidden to modify scaffolding, even temporarily. Any modification exposes you to penalties.
But what if I need to modify it?
If necessary, modifications must be made by authorised personnel, and the modified scaffolding must be reapproved. Check that your scaffolding is in good condition every day before using it. Until the authorised access sign is displayed, access is forbidden. Each scaffolding access hatch must be fitted with a safety cleat to ensure that it is self-folding.
Let's rewind to the Works at Height permit. Does this apply to everyone?
The Work at Height permit applies to all work at height involving the use of a harness, fall arrest device or lanyard with absorber. To use a cherry picker, you must have
A CASES certificate and a driving authorization, a certificate of medical fitness, the certificate of conformity of the equipment, and
knowledge of the operating instructions.
Of course.
The cherry picker operator must always wear a harness and a permanently attached short lanyard to stop the basket from being ejected.
2 specific PPEs to add to my inventory.
A sock absorber is not permitted in the basket of the cherry picker. Only a short lanyard may be used. The chin strap is attached to the helmet. Avoid tying yourself to the rail. A supervisor familiar with emergency maneuvers will be positioned at the foot of the cherry picker to intervene in the event of a problem.
It's all good.
It is also strongly recommended to test the ground controls before using the cherry picker. And above all, never leave the cherry picker in the raised position to access a worksite. Climb onto the guardrail or get out of the basket. Use a cherry picker as a crane to lift loads. Lifting loads is a routine operation on our sites and must be carried out with care and professionalism by trained and authorised personnel. Each role must be defined to ensure the safety of the operation. Regardless of the method used, crane, hoist, bridge, etc., a complex lifting permit is required for loads over 3 meters in height. The load must be guided with a rope or other remote means. Make sure no one is within the lifting equipment's operating range. In all cases, it is strictly forbidden to pass under a load.
Ah!
Oops.
Okay, I'll go around. There are several confined spaces on the site. What hazards are present in these areas?
Oxygen-depleted, toxic or explosive atmospheres. These risks are often the cause of serious or fatal accidents.
But what are these confined spaces?
Here are just a few of them: tanks, reservoirs, vats and silos, cement or raw mills, tower cyclones, furnaces.
And how do you recognize them?
Confined spaces are posted on the site. Any intervention in a confined space requires a complex permit validated by an authorised person.
Just like for lifting.
The permit also contains a risk analysis and checklist and specifies the procedures to be followed to ensure safe operations in these areas, such as gas measurement and the monitoring and emergency plan.
So to be clear, only authorised personnel can access confined spaces?
No, under certain conditions, some areas can lose their confined nature. Furnace stopped, open with access decking. In such cases, a specific notice will be posted to inform all personnel that the area is open.
In all cases, I contact my Lafarge contact to find out about the conditions for working in confined spaces.
During your assignment, you will come into contact with electrical substations. Access to them and work on them are subject to clearance and authorization by the employer.
Noted. No touching without authorization, otherwise you risk a flash arc, right?
That's it. In addition, specific outfits of different classes must be worn when working in cells or drawers. As an external company, it is compulsory to draw up a two-step consignment certificate, as described in Standard NFC 18510 with your Lafarge contact.
Oh, where's that consignment certificate?
It is included with your work permit. Now, the most important thing is not to take any risks. Your electrical work must never be started without checking that no voltage is present and without consignment.
See grounding and short-circuiting as defined in the certificate.
And one last thing, all our systems start up automatically and remotely. The first thing to remember about manual handling, it should be avoided.
But what if I have to?
Well then, the application of these few gestures and postures must be systematic. Always estimate the load, always remove obstacles from your path, always bend your knees, always carry the load close to the body, always avoid repetitive movements, always avoid prolonged uncomfortable postures, and always
wear personal protective equipment.
That's right, including appropriate gloves and safety shoes.
Still on the subject of hands.
The use of hand tools such as grinders, drills, disc saws and sledgehammers or welding machines is very common on Lafarge sites. For all operations, it is mandatory to wear the appropriate personal protective equipment and to check the condition of the equipment before and after use.
Check and check.
In any case, stop.
Oops.
Think before you act. Position your body so as not to be in the tool's path.
Okay.
This simple precaution could prevent half of all accidents.
Think before you act. Check.
For all these interventions, here are the new PPE to be integrated. For work with grinders, drills or grinding machines, airtight goggles. Fire and heat resistant gloves are recommended, but cut resistant gloves work just fine, and fire and heat resistant clothing.
No burns with this.
In all cases, the original safety devices must be present on the machine, in particular the handle, which allows both hands to be on the tool. And of course, it is forbidden to use a disc grinder for grinding.
Of course.
For welding operations, you will need welding goggles or mask, a leather apron-type garment to protect the body from burns, gloves suitable for work with hot spots,
It's starting to get crowded in my inventory.
and finally, when using sharp tools, be sure to wear cut-resistant gloves and position your body out of the tool's path.
Does this include cutters with non-retractable blades?
No, it's strictly forbidden. Now for a little quiz. Why is it your responsibility to position protective screens or tarpaulins before these operations?
To avoid metal drips, splashes, or arc flash from people working near the site?
Correct. Some operations require the use of a steel sledgehammer to unlock metal parts.
Like changing the shielding of a cement mill?
Exactly, but striking a hard metal sledgehammer against a hard metal entails the risk of projecting steel splinters. Here is a risk situation. Metal splinters penetrate clothing, flesh, and arteries.
I'd prefer a mild steel sledgehammer.
And that's what you have to use on a hard steel element. Now let's take a look at the PPE inventory.
Inventory open.
Here are a few items of equipment to add for operations of this type: a leather welder's apron,
Integrated.
airtight goggles,
Integrated.
and a pair of leather pants will protect you better against splinters coming up your thigh from below.
And it looks good on me too. What does ATEX mean?
Explosive atmosphere.
Oh, right.
Lafarge sites may include several fuel workshops, such as fuel, coke, DIB, animal flowers, AFR, i.e. alternative fuels and substitute raw materials which are subject to ATEX regulations. ATEX zones are regulated, only trained personnel are authorised to enter them.
And what are the risks?
For all fuel workshops, the risks will be defined in the work permit drawn up by the Lafarge correspondent. Consult it before starting work to identify the risks, put in place the means of protection, and define the personal protective equipment required. Be careful when working with hotspots in these areas.
All good. I've got my fire permit.
There are, however, risks specific to these fuel workshops.
I'd say fire, explosion, and
Working on equipment using chemical products. Of course, smoking and vaping are still forbidden on the entire site, outside dedicated areas. Numerous chemicals are present on the site.
But how do you determine the risks involved in using a product?
Read the label on the product. Your employer will provide you with the product's Safety Data Sheet, SDS, enabling you to identify the associated risks and take preventive measures, particularly in terms of PPE.
Safety data sheet integrated. By the way, what does CMR substance stand for?
CMRs are carcinogenic, mutagenic and reprotoxic products which are present on the site and require specific PPE to be worn, as specified in the work permit. Always bear in mind that several operations can be carried out in the same small space. You need to be vigilant and control the risks that your intervention generates for those beside you, but also above and below.
Oh yes, we're everywhere. But I'm betting that there are some good practices you can integrate to work well together.
Communicate with your Lafarge correspondent and other stakeholders. Mark out your activity area, remove unnecessary markings and respect existing markings. Report any interference in the work permit.
I've got a question. We've talked about safety regulations, but what about site management?
That's a very good question. A word to the wise, preparation is the key to your safety. Before the worksite, here are the 4 main actions. You must analyse risks, communicate with your staff, set potential energies to 0, and lock out the installation you're working on.
It's time to take the knowledge inventory.
Now let's imagine you're a site manager. To follow these 4 key steps, you must plan safety reception for operators, familiarise yourself with the elements of the prevention plan and the work permit and communicate them to those involved, communicate operating procedures and authorisations to the Lafarge correspondent. Display safety documents on site, ensure compliance with the consignment procedure and safety rules.
Noted, noted, and noted. Now what if I'm a worker?
So, if you've been following along, what's the first step?
Having received the safety welcome from my site manager,
Exactly. And you must have been informed of?
site risks, operating procedures, and prevention plans.
Correct. Now that you've got all this information down, you'll need to know how to proceed, as well as the site's emergency plans and assembly points.
Okay, that's done.
You must also sign the work permit and secure the installation with your own personal padlock.
Okay, everything's locked.
And last but not least, it's worth repeating, respect safety rules.
That's set in cement.
Now for a final role play. If you're a Lafarge correspondent,
And hop.
don't forget, always prepare your work site with safety in mind.
Always, always, always.
You must have the operating procedure for the intervention, the clearances and authorizations, and the safety reception validated for the participants.
They're all here.
You must also communicate the prevention plan to the outside company and to the CLSSCT.
Also known as the Health, Safety and Working Conditions Committee.
Next, you and the external company must carry out a risk analysis using the work authorization tool, the associated permits, and the energy isolation certificate if required. Please note,
I'm all ears.
an operating manual with preventative measures supplied by the external company does not in itself constitute a risk analysis of the work to be carried out.
Where's that?
Risks related to our site and coactivity or interference with our equipment are not included. And last but not least, you must accompany the subcontractor from start to finish.
Okay, so the before part is under control. What do we have to do during the job?
When it comes to intervention, it's simple. You have to manage all aspects of your work site according to 3 categories: markup, storage, cleanliness. All work sites must be identified by signs and hard markings.
Okay, that's done. Same thing within my work zone, I suppose.
Exactly. Dangerous operations indoors will have to be marked out with full hard markings. Now, in your opinion, why does the marking need to be adapted as your site progresses depending on the risks involved?
Well, I'd say to ensure a minimal right-of-way and good traffic flow.
Correct. When setting up your site, we recommend that you identify 3 distinct zones:
Okay, what are they?
a work area, a storage area for materials and waste, and a marked traffic zone reserved for pedestrians.
Yes, it makes sense. It allows better circulation of pedestrians and machinery and better management of materials on the worksite.
Don't forget, these 3 zones will need to be maintained and developed as the work progresses. Tidying up is essential on any work site.
Tidying up is always part of the job.
This means access must be free and clear of all obstacles, hazards must be marked, gas cylinders must be secured, and windsocks must be fitted with anti-warp cables.
Okay, right. That goes there.
Electrical cables and windsocks must be positioned so as not to cause a fall. And of course, waste must be disposed of as and when necessary. Consequences are managed with a point-based license.
What is that?
You get 12 points on arrival and lose points for any deviation.
Okay, we've got to behave.
Any breach of safety on the grounds may result in temporary or permanent exclusion from the site.
And yes, safety is no laughing matter. So you can lose some, but can you win some?
Absolutely. If you report a dangerous situation or show exemplary behaviour or work on a site, bonus points will be awarded.
Great!
Lafarge carries out field safety supervision throughout the year with the aim of discussing your working conditions and compliance with instructions.
So let's stay open to positive discussion. So, before, check. During, check. And once the operation is over, what happens next?
Well, your Lafarge correspondent will check the work with you and confirm that the work is complete. It's vital that site withdrawal operations are carried out with care to prevent accidents.
I couldn't agree more, but how do you do it?
Here are the 4 steps to follow after dismantling when folding up the site.
I'll make a note of it in the knowledge inventory.
Before deconsigning, you must clear the installation by replacing safety devices such as guardrails and protective housings, close electrical cabinets, and clear the work area of all equipment to allow testing and startup. You must then return the equipment loaned by Lafarge.
So I give this back to you,
Remove your tools and equipment and dispose of the waste.
and this goes here. And to conclude, I suppose we'll have to reinstate the collective protection and close the work permit, as well as the various complex permits.
Exactly. Finally, with the agreement of the Lafarge correspondent, you can decontaminate the installations by removing all the padlocks.
Well, it was a job well done.
And of course, notify the Lafarge correspondent of your departure from the site.
What happens next?
Now, we'll see what to do in case of...
This is no laughing matter.
If you witness an accident, here are the essential actions and reactions to follow. Keep calm.
Let's not panic.
Protect the victim by cutting off the power supply, electricity, gas, etc. Examine the victim's condition or the extent of the damage quickly so as to be able to give precise indications. Alert emergency services and notify the central control room.
Hello, emergency?
Rescue the victim if you have been trained to do so by performing the emergency procedures appropriate to the victim or the incident. Emergency numbers are listed on the flyer of the site visited. At the end of this video, we'll leave you a few moments with the V-card of each site. Any accidental event must be reported immediately to the Lafarge correspondent.
In the event of a minor accident, does Lafarge encourage companies to offer a modified workstation with the agreement of the occupational physician?
That's right, to ensure continuity of work. In the event of an accident, it is forbidden for the victim to leave the site alone without the advice of emergency services and without informing his superiors or Lafarge. Certain circumstances may require us to evacuate the facilities. In such cases, an evacuation message will be broadcast within the sites.
In that case, what should I do?
First of all, keep calm. Evacuate without haste. Gather at the nearest point. There are assembly points on the sites. Read the site-specific flyer to find out where they are.
Ah, I found one.
Count those present.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're all here.
Wait for instructions.
What difference does it make if we've got a badge?
It is therefore important that each operator has an individual badge for entry and exit so that we know how many people are present in the plant. In all cases, as always, you should contact your Lafarge correspondent. We're nearing the end of the video.
Oh, already?
But before we go any further, here are a few legislative details to keep in mind at all times.
My inventory is already out.
You must always comply with the French Labour Code, in particular the legal working hour thresholds.
What do you mean by that?
The working day may not exceed 10 hours. Daily rest must be at least 11 hours. The working week may not exceed 48 hours. The weekly rest period must be at least 35 hours. This is for information purposes only. Please see the French Labour Code for details.
Thanks for the clarification. But then I have a question. If we feel in danger in our workplace, what should we do?
If you feel you are in danger, you have the right to exercise your right of withdrawal and stop your work. In this case, inform your line manager and the Lafarge correspondent. Working after consuming alcohol and/or drugs can lead to a drop in productivity and quality of work, have a negative impact on your company's image and, above all, cause accidents.
Obviously, drinking alcohol or taking drugs at work jeopardizes our safety and that of those around us.
We remind you that it is forbidden to bring alcoholic beverages into Lafarge Ciment establishments.
You shall not pass.
Depending on the company's internal regulations and in the event of suspicious behaviour, scheduled or unannounced drug and alcohol tests may be carried out. Bodies such as the DRIL regularly audit our plant to ensure compliance with the requirements of this prefectural decree. But at Lafarge, we are strongly committed to respecting the environment. So of course our factory is committed to minimising its impact on the environment.
This is an excellent initiative, but what is our environmental policy?
Minimising dust and gas emissions, saving natural resources, integrating into your environment in the best possible way, preventing and managing accident situations. We therefore expect our subcontractors and plant employees to subscribe to our environmental policy, particularly in terms of waste sorting.
Ecology, we're all concerned.
You must dispose of your waste as the work progresses. Remember to provide suitable containers. All waste must be disposed of at the end of the project.
I'm adding this new piece of equipment.
You are responsible for the disposal of your waste and are not allowed to use our sorting facilities unless you are authorised to do so when you sign the contract.
No, this is not the place to dispose of waste.
Don't forget, pollution from leaks or spills can have serious environmental impacts.
How do we stop it?
Your hazardous products must be stored in spill containment, and you need to bring sufficient absorbents with you. And if an accident does occur, as always, notify the Lafarge contact and take immediate steps to limit the impact of the pollution.
Remember, if we fail to comply with these rules, Lafarge reserves the right to interrupt our work.
The safety induction is now coming to an end. For your safety and that of your colleagues, always bear in mind that the risks in the field are numerous and can lead to serious accidents. Nothing justifies endangering a life. Working safely means working better.
And of course, always have a 100% pro attitude.
Thank you for taking this safety course all the way. It was a pleasure to accompany you as you learned from these rules and measures, which are more than essential for your safety and that of your colleagues during all on-site operations.
And let's not forget that a successful intervention is one without accidents.
Now to your tests, and good luck.
Now it's your turn.